What's up? I'm Empathetic Chicken, and what follows is a video that I recorded back in 2018 when I was in therapy school, and I just share some thoughts on mental health and diagnosis and creativity. It's kind of like a little bit all over the place, but it all kind of like ties together in the end, I think. But yeah, I was just revisiting it, and I felt like it really captured kind of my mindset on mental health and just where I've kind of come from as far as like approaching my oracle decks and like creating tools to help people. So yeah, I didn't eventually become a therapist because of reasons that you'll see in the video, and I have another video that I talk about this. So, I mean, you can watch that too if you're interested. But, so like the oracle decks and stuff that I create are kind of like my response to not becoming a therapist and just providing like an alternative form of healing. Since I didn't end up using the knowledge that I gained in therapy school, like in a traditional therapeutic setting. So just as like a disclaimer, just want to say like outright that if anything in the video is offensive, like that is not my intention, and I can understand how these views might seem a little bit controversial, and just know that like I'm not trying to claim to be like an expert on anything just because I went to therapy school or any of that. Like, make your own judgments, trust yourself over anybody else, and just know that it's not my intention to be harmful or offensive. I'm just a human figuring things out, and though I pretty much still agree with everything in the video, I definitely feel like I've grown as a person, and I'm not as angry as I was in the past, and I don't know, I'm just really more chill now, so I feel like it was all necessary to get to this point, and I just feel like it's important to acknowledge like where we've come from. So I just wanted to share this in case it might help some people, or I don't know, if people are just nosy. So anyway, with that said, like just take what you will, leave the rest. Like it's just me figuring life out. All words are lies. At best, they point toward the truth. At worst, they totally mislead and create confusion. We already know everything there is to know if we could only quiet our minds. The constant chatter, anxiety, and self-questioning born out of an illusionary separation from our source magically lift when we remember our inherent connection. There is a famous teaching in the Zen tradition which tells of a student asking about the moon. A stick is used to point to it, and the teaching warns us not to mistake the stick for the moon. The problem with all words is that they are sticks. They can never be the moon. At best, they are beautiful sticks that delineate the moon's shape, light, or majesty, and allow our eyes to gaze at it directly. At worst, they are several headed branches that splay out into many different directions and confuse us even more. Alright, so basically I'm gonna just get on with it, into the mental health stuff, because I'm ready to just say what I'm going to say. Like talking about how the stick isn't the moon and all that, like it's showing you the moon, but it's never going to be the thing that you're looking at. So like, I was thinking how like language is like that. Basically what he was saying, like words are never like the truth, because they're only like descriptors, like they're not the actual thing being described. So like with labels, like mental illness, when you like take on one of them labels, it's kind of like simplifying you. Say you're like depressed, you feel like you're depressed, and you're like, I'm suffering, I need some help, like let me just go up in here and see if I can get some help. I mean, that's assuming that you have like access to resources and like money to afford resources and like healthcare and all that stuff, where you got some free programs like, you know, in the community, whatever. But anyway, you go to get some help, and then they like, you describe like you just kind of feeling whatever I don't even want to like say I got the DSM-5 over here. Like I can pull out the criteria, but I mean I don't even want to do that. But whatever. Say you fit the criteria for depression or whatever, and they give you that label, and then they want to put you on some meds or something. Like they're not taking into account like who you are as a person, like what you've been through, like what you're currently like. Yeah, they're like your current symptoms, like if they match the criteria, but like how do they know that you're not just like stressed out from like being in school or like a sick family member or like I don't know, just some life stuff that everybody goes through. Like, and we all know that like the struggle is real at times, and it gets like harder at times too. Like sometimes it feels like you ain't never gonna get out of the ruts. Or maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I know that I sometimes get in these funks where I'm like, am I ever even gonna like be happy again? And not even that you gotta be happy like all year round, but like it's just like a part of life, I feel like, to get upset sometimes and then be happy and then upset, and then it's just a circular kind of process that we just go through in this life. But like if you go and get that label put on you, that kind of like follows you around forever, and it's not like taking into account like all the other things that like led up to that moment when you went in there and got that diagnosis. Like, so why would you want that moment to define like the rest of your life? Because we all know the stigma exists. Like you get that label and people look at you different. So like I don't know if that's the best route to go, like, to get into this, but I feel like the traditional, like, mental health approach is just not viable. But if we're going from, like, a social constructionist view or, like, postmodernist view, like, everybody interprets the world, like, in their own ways. So, like, nobody's interpretation is the right one. So I would just read it from the research or whatever. What we take to be true as opposed to false, objective as opposed to subjective, scientific as opposed to mythological, rational as opposed to irrational, moral as opposed to immoral, is brought into being through historically and culturally situated social process. So basically, like, everything that we know to be true is just that way because some people back in the day were like, this is the way it is, and then everybody just kind of was like, oh, they know, so like we all just kind of followed along and we're like, somebody knows, so like we should listen. But yeah, it is not the individual mind in which knowledge, reason, emotion, and morality reside, but in relationships. The communal view of knowledge also represents a major challenge to the view of truth, or the possibility that the accounts of scientists or any other group reveal or approach the objective truth about what is the case. So yeah, that like means that basically what I was saying earlier, like people just kind of interpret stuff how they want, and then they get some people to back them up, and then it just becomes like common knowledge, and that don't mean it's like real or true, because it's just like a certain group of people deciding that it is. But this is from an article called The Self as Social Construction by Keneth Gergen. And I got this other book by Gergen. It's called Invitation to Social Construction. Alright, there is no means by which one can locate a transcendent truth, a truly true. Any attempt to determine the superior account would itself be the outcome of a given community of agreement. So yeah, gotta have some peeps to back you up, or else anybody gonna listen. So like, I'm sure somebody that watches this is gonna be like, you don't know what you're talking about, you're crazy, and not back me up. So that would mean I have no authority and my perception is less valid. When really, like, everybody's is less valid unless they got people to like. And even then, like, who's to say just because you got some group, like, I don't know, I'm just getting off it, but hopefully I'm making sense. So, I mean, if we take all that into account, like, these mental health professionals and all that, like, they're only seeing what they want to see. Like, they expect people to be sick, so they're going to find evidence to back that up. They write the little book, the DSM-5, and then they got, like, the guideline of crazy. Like, you know, they can just look in here and be like, oh, they got this symptom, they got this symptom, they got this disorder now. And then they make their money, and then you get cursed with a label. And I'm just stop being so judgmental. But yeah, I don't like that book. Because I feel like everybody could qualify for something in there at any point. Like, it just depends on what you're going through. Okay, let me just read this from the Gergen book. It says, all of us suffer from time to time, and we all confront people who are strange or baffling in their behavior. Many of us may have urgently sought help with our emotional problems, urges, and failings. Such is life. Yet this focus on the here and now often blinds us to the larger circumstances of which we are a part. Our attention is consumed by the problem before us without seeing ourselves as a participant in cultural history. What if there is no mental illness in the world? What if? Alright, I'm gonna read this. All enduring relationships will bring into being a relatively stable definition of the way the world is, along with an associated array of values. In this way, relational process will also tend to create a domain of undesirable deviation, people who are out of line, stupid, ridiculous, or otherwise evil. Thus, whether an event or behavior constitutes a problem and warrants suffering depends on the configuration of our relationships. No one is weird, neurotic, psychotic, or pathological outside a tradition in which certain acts are defined both as unusual and unwanted. Only is one disordered by virtue of social convention. So yeah, basically the way that we define things is like the way that they become true or whatever. And I just don't think it's fair that like only a set number of people get to define what is what. I had outlined this for you too about the DSM-5. The taxonomies. The taxonomy functions as the Bible of the mental health professions and is purported to be objective and universal in application. It is essentially a cultural construction embodying the values of a particular group at a particular time in history. So yeah, that's the gist. It's just that some people came together and were like, that is crazy. And then it got published into a book, which made it even more like believable. And now people are getting affected by it. So basically they're like treating like a deviance from their established norm as like a disease instead of just like a difference in values or like behaviors that they think are acceptable or whatever. I don't even know who they is, like I guess whoever like set the standard like whenever and then people adopted it and whatever. Like I ain't even trying to be blaming because I know people just kind of like make sense of stuff as they go, but like in the end I feel like when it doesn't suit like other people down the line, it shouldn't be so rigid and like set in stone. It should be like negotiable because technically everybody wasn't around back then, so like they didn't know what was gonna happen, so why we got to stick by the rigid rules that was written like back in the day. But anyway, I was gonna go back into like my personal like reason all this stuff kind of came up, which I mean I've always like cared about mental health because like my mom and brother and everybody. I mean my dad never got help, but I mean he wouldn't admit nothing was wrong anyway, I don't think. But Like, I don't know, it's always been like in my life, so I don't know, I was always, I mean, I got to like justify myself. Like, clearly I had a reason if I wanted to go to be a therapist, which I don't even know how I feel about that anymore, but anyways. So the first semester, or the first 2 semesters was like good, because it was teaching like these postmodern ideas and everything, and I was like, what's going on? Like, why am I in the South? But like this program, which is at like a pretty conservative university, like this program exists, and like I just happen to go to that program for therapy, like, because it's like a graduate kind of training clinic thingy or whatever. I've explained that in the past, but like I don't expect people to keep up with me. But like I was like, this is perfect. This like is in line with my values. Like this could be something. Like this might be my way to like be of use to society, like help people. And like I was happy. I was like, this is it. Like I might be like okay. But then like over the summer, this past summer, like I had to take an assessment class and a class called psychopharmacology, which is just like the drug side of things. But yeah, we had to get the DSM-5 and read about all that. But yeah, I just started to realize that like, yeah, I can hold these like thoughts that oppose the traditional sense of therapy and mental illness and all that, but like I just got like overwhelmed thinking about how like I'm only one person and like this is only one program, and I just don't see how I'm gonna be able to practice in a way that I can deal with, because I don't I don't adopt the belief that people are flawed or like they need a therapist to fix them and all that. But that's the way that the mental health, like, the field makes their money, because I mean, and even like the whole concept of like me being a therapist kind of bothers me, because I know that somebody has to like be suffering in order for me to have a job. So that whole thing is just another aspect that I kind of still thinking about, but let me just breathe. But it's almost like it all like came to a head this summer, because like I had to learn about like assessments and like, I don't know, I'm sure like a lot of people have done this, but like back when I was like job searching and everything, before I even went back to grad school, like you always had to take these stupid online tests, and they had these questions that were like, they just felt like trick questions, because like they didn't leave room for like explanation, and like any answer I could like think of a way that it would be twisted and be used against me. And so needless to say, like I never got jobs because I never felt like I knew what they wanted, because the questions were so like directed towards, I felt like, a certain answer that I had no clue what it was. Because like, for example, like a question like, have you ever been late to a job? I'd be like, well, I don't want to say yeah, because then they'll take that as, well, I don't care about the job and I won't be a good employee. But then on the other hand, if I say no, I mean, that's a pretty common like occurrence sometimes. Like you just can't control external circumstances. Sometimes you get stuck in traffic, sometimes like you sleep in. I mean, that's like a natural human thing that happens sometimes. So like if I say no, then they're gonna think, oh, they're dishonest. So I don't know, like stuff like that. I'd always be like, well, what do they want? Like, what do they want from me? Like, I don't understand what is the right answer. Like, it could be either, and there's not just this one specific scenario that is the right answer. Like, I felt like there could be multiple possibilities. So basically what I'm saying with all this other mess is just like, I just feel like the world is set up to where like there's like a right answer, there's a right like sickness, like if you have something, like it's just like too definitive. Like there's no room for like seeing like the context of things. And so I don't even remember where I was at, but yeah, with the assessment class, like we had to take, like practice doing little mock sessions of like delivering assessments to clients and like answering them, like being a client for somebody else. And like the questions were just so like limiting and just like set to a specific, like I was saying, I was looking for a certain answer, like, and that's kind of how I just feel like it's a disadvantage for like whoever's coming in there for therapy, because like they might be like distraught and need to talk about something, but then you like shoving a questionnaire in their faces and like just getting your little like info on your pad, like, oh, just make sure my job's done, don't even care about this human in front of me. But and I just feel like they use those assessments as like a pathway into a diagnosis, when the questions are like tailored to only get a certain answer. So like they're gonna find what they're looking for, whatever that is. Like they'll find a way to twist it to match whatever they think they're looking for. I don't know. But that was another concept kind of that we learned about in either some researcher guy named Bateson, Gregory Bateson, or Bradford Keeney. I don't remember. They're all kind of like, they write about the same stuff, but like I don't want to be taking credit for nobody else's stuff. But yeah, about, they were talking about how like it's a concept of like all this theory junk. It's hard to talk about. Like the observer in the observed. Like back in the day, like therapists thought that like, well, I mean, I'm sure now too, like they think that they're separate from the client, like they're just there to like help them and they don't have an influence. Like if the client doesn't get better, like it's on the client. But the observer and the observed, I don't know if I mislabeled that a minute ago or not, but that means that basically like whatever somebody is observing, like they're having an influence on it just by being there, because like they're influencing the behavior of the thing that they're whatever researching or looking at or whatever. Oh, so like with the assessments, like the assessor, whoever wrote the assessment, has like a one-up on the client, because they get to set like the standards to be followed. Like they get to ask the questions, and whatever questions they ask are going to shape the response that they get. So, and then not even that, and not only that, like you could ask somebody like if they're feeling anxious or something that day, and like if you say yes, then that could like form the basis for like some anxiety disorder diagnosis or something, when really like what if you were just anxious because you were being delivered an assessment and you had never been to get help before, and it's just kind of like a scary thing sometimes to like get help. Well, all I'm saying is I just feel like those assessments are based on like an isolated event, like that moment in time when you're answering those questions, and then they use that for like determining the necessary actions or whatever for the future. But like if they diagnose you, you just gotta live with that, and it's gonna influence your whole life. I don't know. But I just hated that class because I was like, I hate these. Like I feel the same as I did when I was trying to get a job. Like it's hopeless, because you're gonna like just think what you think, and there's no room for me to like explain myself because you're just bombarding me with questions. But yeah, that was getting to me. And then the other class was more focused on like the DSM-5 and like hearing about all the diagnoses and all that. I just don't think that there is any like true norm. So like who's to say who is ill or whatever? And basically the diagnosis process is just like a way for them to like say that you're flawed, because there's no norm. feel like I don't want to participate in like rehabilitating people into society, because they're basically being judged on their functionality in society, like holding down a job and doing all the stuff that we have to do, like to be successful in whoever's eyes that made that up. So I just don't feel right about telling people like you're not enough, like you don't measure up because you're having a struggle. And really, I just feel like the expectations of people to like fit some mold is the real problem. It's not the people, it's the expectations. But anyway, I just feel like people should get to define themselves, and then the same, I have some issues with that too, because like I don't want people to feel like they're mentally ill, but I also want to respect if they have received that label and they take meds and they feel like it helped them. So I don't want to like value my opinion over like everybody else in the world and make them feel like they're wrong for like accepting a diagnosis or like taking medicine. But I just don't believe that we're really sick. Like, I mean, I know that humans suffer, but I just feel like a lot of that suffering is because we feel like we're supposed to be a certain way. And we're not allowed to be a certain way, like, because that's not normal or functional in some cases. So anyways, all that was just swirling. I was just like feeling like, well, how am I ever gonna like sustain as a therapist, knowing all this, like not believing in the way that most of the places out there do things. Like, how am I gonna like sacrifice my beliefs for this job? Like, because I don't even, I mean, really, if I'm honest, it's not even about like holding a career and making money and all that. It's really like I just want to do something that I feel like matters, and unfortunately money is a component when you live in this society. So I mean, that was a way for me to be sustained and help people. But then I'm just wondering, am I really going to be helping people if I'm just contributing to the same old patterns? But yeah, another thing is we watched a documentary called Of Two Minds. But yeah, it was about like a bunch of people, or not a bunch of people, but like 4 or 5 people, I don't even remember, but they were diagnosed with like bipolar, and like most of them were artists and like have background in art, like anybody who comes up on this later. And so like I really was relating to the characters, or not the characters, like the real people. I felt like these people are like my kind of people. Like, I am everything this documentary is describing, like, and I felt very like, I guess like attacked and violated, because basically I feel like this society, well, I mean, it's clear to see, it's weird. It's like the society like devalues creativity in some aspects. Like, yeah, like movies and all that, popular culture, all that's like, that's valued. But then I feel like creative like individuals are like discouraged. Like stuff that's not like mainstream accepted, like, I don't know. Cause I mean, I kind of dealt with that when I graduated with my art degree. Like, I just felt like creativity isn't valued where I'm at. Like, I'm not gonna make this sustainable because nobody values what I have to offer. And so, I don't know, I just felt like it was the documentary was equating like crazy with creativity, which I mean is fine on my like behalf, because I'm like, I mean, it's cool to be creative. Like, I don't think we're crazy. Like, I just like thinking of, like, I like to think of mental illness as like, I mean, I don't like to say that we're mentally ill, but obviously like we're tapped into like something that allows us to like access more of like, I don't know. I just feel like we have like a different lens that we see through. But I just like to think like of mentally ill people as like using different parts of their brains. And like maybe we're like, I mean, I think I read this somewhere, I don't remember where, so I mean, I ain't taking credit for it. But like, what if like mentally ill people were like just kind of like evolving, and like we're suffering because we're like growing and we see how the world, like, not how it really is, but like, see, this is just like a mind trap. I don't know, I just know I've always felt like I see things more realistically, but then you could argue because like art is kind of like more of a unexplainable kind of thing. I don't know, maybe that is what crazy is. But like, I guess seeing like the way that like the Matrix and all that, like seeing how everything is just like, it seems like we're just playing this stupid game, like, and we don't see that we shouldn't have to play it. Basically, I felt like the documentary was saying that creative people are crazy, and I just felt really like, I kind of like placed myself in the shoes of the people in the movie. Like, I don't know, I think I just went a little overboard and like relating to it and was just like feeling some things, you know. I was just like stressed over all of this stuff, and I was thinking about how I ain't gonna be able to make it as a therapist. I am the thing that y'all are describing, like learn about all the mental illnesses and the, ow, Tom, you gotta go, you don't want to be scratching me up. But thinking about all the diagnoses and stuff, like, I just felt like targeted, I guess, because I just felt like I don't belong here. Like, all these people, it's weird because I don't believe in a normal, but I feel like I was the least normal. But anyways, I just felt like, well, I don't belong here. Like, they're gonna like find out that I'm just like a psychopath, like, because we're learning about all this, and they're like thinking, like, I was just being overly like self-aware and like putting myself in like every situation. Like on the day that it happened, I was late for class, and so like I didn't get to sit in my usual seat, which is on the outskirts of the classroom, and then like I had to go, it's like a big U of like seats, and then in the middle there's 2 rows, and like I had to sit in that middle row. So I just felt like, I don't know, like everybody was paying attention to me when I really, I'm sure they weren't, but like that was just my mind doing that. But yeah, I don't know, I heated up my soup, I was eating it, and then all of a sudden like I got really weak, started feeling some things, like I just felt like I couldn't hold my bowl up, and like I tried to get some water because I was like, maybe I'm just like dehydrated or something. But like I went to like hold my bottle up, and like my arm kind of went like weak and limp, and I was like, oh, like I ain't gonna be able to hold that up. So I had to put that down, and then my head was weak. I was like, oh god, I can't hold my head up. So I like just sat there like this, like, because I felt like I can't leave because like I'll fall on the ground. Like, it was like weird. It was like I felt like I was gonna like lose control, like not like hurt people, but like just lose like bodily control. Like I would just collapse or something if I didn't like hold my head up. So I was just like just sitting there like hoping that nobody noticed, and like I couldn't leave, and I was just like, oh my god, is this ever gonna end? And finally, like in the middle of the PowerPoint, I raised my hand and I was like, yo teacher, like I'm feeling some things, like I feel like I'm gonna pass out if I try to move, but I feel like I need to go lay down. And like my heart was like beating really fast. I felt like I was gonna like I really felt like I needed to go to the doctor, because I was like, how am I gonna get home if I like fall out at the wheel or something? Like, I don't know, it was weird. But I guess like everything just like came to a head, and like I just had to release all that. But like one of the the girls in the class helped me get to a therapy room, and I just kind of like sat and cried, like, and then she came back in and was like trying to talk to me and everything, and I was like, I don't really feel right with you talking to me, because like she was a second year, she'd been there longer than I had, and so she's already practicing therapy, so I was like, I don't really feel right with you like doing your therapy on me. Like, I don't think she was trying to, but like she was just asking me questions, I guess, to like help me understand what was going on, because I told her like, I don't know what's happening, like, because in the moment I was like, Jesus, like something is going wrong, like I'm dying or something. But I don't know, it was weird, because like a couple days before, like I felt like I was having like epiphanies, like, because I was upset, like after that documentary I was upset and just like feeling like creativity is like being denied in this society, like, and that's a part of why people are like feeling mentally ill, because like they can't like express themselves and everything. But I really just feel like this society like denies us of like connection, like real connection and creativity and like compassion. I just feel like that's what we're missing, and I just wish that I could find a way to not have to conform to capitalism and all that, the American dream, and just like help people for real, like not give them labels and give them meds and just talk to them for 5 minutes or an hour, however long sessions are. But I don't know. Which I feel like that's why therapy is, I don't agree with like the pathology that comes with like seeing a therapist, like the idea that you're sick or you're like crazy. But I still believe in therapy. Like I think, like I've seen that it helps, because I mean I've been in therapy for like the past 3 years, I think. I mean not consistently, but like, and it's like from like a postmodern perspective, like I've had therapy like from family therapists, so I know that it's helped me, and but I don't feel like it's because I was sick or like I'm any less. Like I just feel like it's because like we're humans and we need like connections, and when you go therapy, it's like you're getting attention like that you might not get somewhere else, like even if it is like that kind of attention. I think some people just don't have like support systems and they need to go talk to somebody, because I even feel like that's kind of what I do like with my therapist. Like I don't feel like I really need to go to her anymore. I just kind of like seeing her, because like I've made her like a therapy friend. And that even probably crosses the boundaries. Like you ain't supposed to be like friends with your therapist according to the rules, but like sometimes I just feel like the rules get in the way of like being human. Like, I mean whatever human is, like, but to me human is being compassionate and like connecting and just being supportive of each other.